All right, what's going on? Welcome to the Wired Sound Podcast. So today we have a very special guest. This is an alumni from the Academy. She graduated, I think it was about 2 years back, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
So this is STEPHYG. She's been crushing it, and we wanted to get her on to talk a little bit about her journey.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so how you been? What have you been up to?
Good. It's 2 years later now since I've taken the class, and I am finally going to release music this year after 2.5 years of DJing.
Okay, so that's a solid goal. Try and put out a few tracks, originals or remixes? What are we thinking?
Original.
Okay.
I was thinking remix first, but I think I should just drop my own original first.
Yeah, I think, putting out the original music, making your own stamp on the sound, that's always a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a little bit into your journey today. Like I said, what you've been up to since graduating the Academy. So why don't you give the listeners a quick recap? So you graduated 2 years ago, and then what have been some highlights, some Reader Digest version?
Some highlights, I'd say 2023 New Year's, I opened for Nora and Pure at Dare. That was super sick. That was my first time at Dare. And then since then, recently, I just played at Dare again in November. And I opened for Luke Alexander last spring break, so 2024 at SLS. That was super cool too.
Okay. So some local Miami, Fort Lauderdale shows.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think, I talk about this with my friends a lot. I think it's super important, right, to build in your own market, in your local market. So I think that's what you're doing right now.
Definitely.
You're in that local market stage. Mm-hmm. And then once you get into that releasing music part, you can start to expand to different markets, right? So,
yes, exactly.
So what's your next 2 years looking like? What are your big goals for the next couple of years?
Next 2 years, I think I definitely want to release at least 3 songs this year. Then hopefully by next year, we can move on to other cities other than just Miami and Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. Do you have a sound in mind, or what?
House, Clooney style. I really like Clooney these days. His Latin incorporations in his music style. I really like it. I really like the trumpets. I like the horns, all of the musical parts that go into a song. I really like that.
Okay. So some Latin elements maybe to kind of bring it into your music?
Yeah.
All right.
Some space music.
Yeah, so, all right, some the deeper, techier stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see, there's always a weird disconnect because that stuff obviously works really well in certain rooms. And then you have the other side, we were talking about this earlier, right, before you hopped on, of the more open format gigs where you can't really play that sound. So I know you were saying you're trying to make that jump from some of those more open format gigs to more of the artist-centric gigs, and that's that's a really big thing to make a jump from that as far as a DJ career goes, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I think that's a great route to go. I think a lot of DJs struggle with that jump, especially when it's your sole career / income. Mm-hmm. So a weird thing I do is I'll play shows and then I don't really promote certain shows that don't really fit my artist brand.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
When you're a DJ, when it's your career, when it's your income, they might not all align with where you're going sound-wise, right? Mm-hmm. So that's good that you have a good defined sound that you want to go for. I think that's super important.
Yeah, I'm definitely still trying to find my sound, but house, tech house, Clooney style, anything like that is definitely where I want to go. I want to move away from open format. When I first started the school and once I graduated, my first couple gigs were all open format.
Yeah.
And I shortly realized that I wanted to do house, and that's where I want to go.
Okay. So I think you played before me here at Sparrow, maybe a year and a half ago when you had just graduated in school. And one thing that really stuck with me is you brought 15, 20 friends that were vibing your set, and I was like, that's awesome. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, it definitely does help a lot. I'm more of an introverted person. So all of my friends, they all live around here, and all my friends like to party. So it's pretty easy to get people to come to my sets, and they love to support. And I love that.
Great for content, honestly, too. I see so many DJs they record just themselves in a room or a cool setting even, and I don't think that cuts it nowadays. I think you need a crew behind you.
Crowd.
Yeah, people vibing, people reacting to the music. How is someone gonna scroll past your video and then no one, like there's no one there to react to it.
Yeah.
Versus like you scroll past a video and you see like 10 friends just going hard, right? I think that completely changes the energy.
Sure, definitely.
And the vibe.
The last year I started recording all of my sets and posting them on YouTube. And I've noticed the ones where I have more people in the background, I get more views.
Okay.
Rather than just like myself and nobody behind me.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because like at the end of the day, there's a lot of DJs that are just posting those same videos because it's easier, right? It's easier just to like record a set in your bedroom or record a set in a cool location by yourself. But to actually get a friend group to come out and create more of a party, I think it changes the whole dynamics.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and I think you should do that if you're leaning into a new sound, like play that sound, but have your friend group come out to kind of premiere what you're doing musically.
Yeah, and like sometimes there's nights where nobody will come with me, and that's perfectly fine. There's gonna be nights like that. There's gonna be nights where I don't know anybody in the crowd or anybody near me, but I think it's a learning process. And there's been gigs where there was 2 people on the dance floor and then 200.
Yeah.
And that's just how it's gonna be for a while.
That's a big, I mean, there's so many artists, like you see, right, when you're on social media, you see the big clips, right? You see them playing 1,000, 500 person cap rooms, and that's what you think being a DJ is, but you don't really see the 10 person, 15 person rooms that 99% of DJs have to play, and then they'll also play the 500 person rooms, but people aren't posting those 10 to 15 person, shows because it doesn't look good, for content. I think I wish they had a club where like those 10 to 15 people just got behind the DJ. And so even if the room was dead, at least, you have
the videos,
the content. But, and at the end of the day, you got to remember what kind of DJ you are. Like if you're being booked to provide to make the club, just have that normal like club energy, right? So are you booked as the artist or are you booked as the club DJ? I think that's an important distinction, right? So it sounds like you're trying to make that jump from not just being the club DJ to the artist side. And I struggle with that a lot, trying to figure out, okay, did they book me because they know my music is Landis, or did they book me because they are just trying to, have a good club night and it's just one of their normal club nights? Yeah. And so it's a kind of weird balance to figure out.
For sure. And it's hard in Miami. It's like definitely one of the toughest places I think it would be to become a DJ because there's so many. There's so many DJs here and everybody wants to take it to the next level. Yeah. But it's about who's releasing music consistently, I think.
Releasing music, content, I think is super important. I mean, there's a lot of, like the flip side of that is there's more places to go out in Miami. There's more people that want to hear DJ sets, so you have the advantage on that side.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the other side of the spectrum. But there's definitely a lot of competition with the DJ market. It's just you got to find your group, you got to find your people, and then the venues that want to book you.
And necessarily, I don't really think of it as like competition. I think it's a way to expand my network. And there's always going to be that 1 or 2 people that discourage you or say things, or especially to me because I'm a girl. So that's definitely happened to me before. But there's a lot of female DJs coming up now, and I think that's really great.
Yeah, I mean, like Charlotte DeWitt's like my all-time favorite.
Oh yeah, she's so good. Sarah Landry too, I just saw her at 3 Points.
Yeah, is crushing it. So that's cool. So all right, so a bit of Latin house is like the goal, Latin tech. Yes. I love it. And then any labels you're trying to release on? Have you done any research on that side?
I just started looking into house labels. I forget the name of it, but it's the one with all the songs have the same album cover. It's like yellow. It's like black background and then like a yellow, I forget what it's called.
Not Monster Cat.
No,
would be a house.
Nervous Records?
Oh yeah.
I think.
Yeah, they've been around for a minute.
Yeah.
They're like a legendary.
I love their music. I have so many of their songs.
So have you figured out what the demo process is? Because I could talk a little bit about that and like how to get your records.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as like, it's always interesting, right? Because it's like finding the right person at the label. I mean, you could obviously go to Instagram, DM them, and be like, hey, who's the right person? They probably won't DM back. But honestly, like a Google search can go a long way. A lot of times you'll see, like what I do, which is kind of crazy, but it works. It's worked for so many labels that I've wanted a response from. I'll go to Google, I'll say, okay, A&R for, say, Nervous Records. It'll pop up with their LinkedIn, right? Usually first and last name. And then I'll go to Instagram, check the labels following, like who they're following, type that name in, find the person, and then usually that's how and then I'll DM them on Instagram.
Smart. That's smart. Though.
Which is, I know it's like a little DJ stalker-ish to get there, but it's worked. Like I've had
FBI work, but it's
but like
so.
at the end of the day, get the email,
exactly.
send the records, and then
Whatever
build a relationship. And then I always like to intro the emails with I've done so and so and so and so. If you don't have releases yet, then maybe just talk about like your show accolades. So I've opened for Nora and Pure, and coming up in the Miami scene. I think this would be a great fit. So that's how I always like to preface it.
Okay.
Try and kind of tell them what you've done before.
Yeah.
To lean into.
When I reach out to new venues, I always try to say the big shows that I've done and the artists that I've opened for, and it definitely helps.
Yeah, what's that process like for your reaching out to venues?
Well, I'll either DM them or I will find an email, or if I know somebody who works there, something like that, and then I'll send them my EPK, which has everything about me, my photos, my videos, mixes, my rates, like what I need as a setup, etc. And then it either works or it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean that's I think the name of the game. You just kind of throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
For sure.
There's no shame in cold DMing or cold emailing.
It's worth a shot. Like why not?
Yeah, and I think a lot of DJs think you need an agent to get these bookings, but a lot of times it's much more direct. Like a lot of the bookers, the talent buyers at these venues, they like to have a direct relationship with the artist and be like, oh yeah, I know Steph, I saw her open for Nora, or whatever it is that you made a personal kind of connection. I'm sure like other DJs have talked about this, but going out, being, showing up to other artists.
For sure, networking, just always showing up to other people's gigs, supporting other DJs is very important.
It helps a lot, right? To kind of change that dynamic of just being a faceless artist behind an email.
Definitely.
And that's why being in Miami, that's awesome because you can do that. Like
Miami never sleeps, so.
Yeah, if you're in like North Dakota, you might have a little bit harder time
finding
venues for house music.
Yeah.
So that's a solid way. All right, so mainly like cold emailing. Have you cold DM'd on Instagram at all? Okay.
I have. I've got some responses.
Yeah, I think
didn't respond.
Okay, I think Instagram's for me, it's been a better resource than emailing.
Then they can like see everything.
Yeah, like, they've done this, and this.
And then they'll usually just ask for your BK after that.
And you could try the same thing with your music once you have the releases, right? Just cold DMing. I always recommend newer artists to also try like artist ran labels. So, for example, I run like Fresh Squeeze, which is like a sub of Hexagon, but I'm much more probably responsive than a lot of the A&Rs might be at these major labels. Yeah. Where so you just DM me and send me a record. There's like a 60% chance I'll listen and get back to you. Whereas like these major A&Rs are getting kind of spammed all day. So sometimes that's a nice lead in as an artist. You kind of approach, say like, I'm not sure if Clooney has a label, but.
I think it's Hellbent Records, I believe.
So that might, he's like top. Yeah. But other people that have released on his label, maybe Sam Pacho. There's definitely a few Latin tech artists.
Yeah, I think Rello, I believe, has released on his record label before, and he's an upcoming DJ. He's really good. All of his tracks are exactly like Clooney style. They're
crushing. All right, so that's another strategy. All right, so you said, sending it to maybe like Rello or someone like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a really good DJ. He's a good producer too, and I'm pretty sure he produces all of his music from home. And I've reached out to a couple of my friend producers to help me with tracks because it's hard learning everything by yourself. And I took the Wired class.
Okay.
But it was probably a couple months until I actually started doing it after I took the class. But it's definitely helpful to reach out to other producers.
Yeah, and try and collab and like.
Yeah, and then they can give me tips. So they can see what I did wrong, what I didn't do wrong, and it's a learning process.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's another thing that maybe newer producers are a little bit shy with cold reaching out to other producers in the area. But honestly, like that is another way to one up your production game, right? You find another producer, say it's another Fort Lauderdale or Miami producer, and you say, hey, I love some of the edits you've been putting out, whatever. Are you making any originals? Would you want to work on something together? This is what I've been up to. Because sometimes it's just you get another perspective, right? When you see another producer's say Ableton project, and you will be like, oh wow, I've never thought to use that plugin or that EQ effect on the vocal.
Exactly.
And then you'll have that for the rest of your production career.
Exactly. I feel like that's kind of how I was at the beginning. I didn't really want to reach out to anybody, but I've definitely been doing a lot more of that, and it helps. And everybody in the music industry is pretty much very nice and very welcoming, so that's great. And I would say to the younger DJs and producers, reach out and don't be afraid. And if they say no, they say no. That's the worst thing that can happen.
Worst happens, they don't respond, or they say no, or they get on the mic and say, this fucking producer. But I think that is something that I was definitely shy with early on in my career. I was like, should I message? I would overthink the message. Be like, should I message them?
Yeah.
What if they're like, what the fuck why is this guy cold messaging me? And you just gotta say, fuck it. Like, what's the worst that happens?
Exactly.
And I still cold DM, even at my stage in my career. All the time, I'll be like, oh, this guy's crushing it. Let me just shoot my shot. And it works. Like, the latest for me, I had a collab with Bingo Players. And again, that came up from a cold DM. I saw he was playing at Dare. And I was like, oh, like maybe I can open for him because I know the Dare guys. And so I DM'd him. I was like, yo, I'm going to be opening for you. He was like, oh, awesome, man. Spoke with him there a little bit. And then I continued to DM him after. I sent him maybe 3 tracks. And then finally he was like, I love this one.
Amazing.
Let's develop
That's
it.
great.
And that's how it happened. And for me, that's like just putting in the work and just DMing and staying consistent.
Putting in the work, consistency for sure.
And and don't be scared like if they reject you the first time, right? Because you just send a few more.
It always turn around. Somebody else will be there to help you, even if one person doesn't.
Yeah. So, and I think people also have kind of a short memory with music, right? With music, especially now, people will pay attention to a song for maybe a week, 2 weeks, a month if you're lucky. That'll be like the song, and then they'll move on to the next song. So the best method, I think, is just throw it all out there.
Just go for it.
And find an audience that way. Okay, so that's gonna be a good direction for the next year, trying to release some original music. And then on the venue side, do you have any venues that you've been reaching out to that you're kind of like trying to get into?
The past couple months, I've just been trying to take a step back from taking as many gigs because you can get caught up very fast, very easy. My first year of DJing, I would be like, I need a drink. I need a shot. I need something before I DJ. And there was one incident. It only happened once, never again. I was super drunk on the board, and I fucked up pretty bad. And you could hear the beat match was off really bad. I took it out quickly. Nobody really noticed that well. But I noticed.
But and it stuck with you.
And I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't drink during my sets anymore. If I do, it's maybe one drink. But I think that's very important for younger DJs or newer DJs to think about because you can get caught up really fast.
It's super easy, It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on dry January right now, and I just felt like that was important because I was it like Christmas, I played a show Christmas Eve, then New Year's, then I played 2 shows that weekend, and then it was just like tequila shots and just like nonstop, which is, it's fun, but you gotta set a limit, and if you know that about yourself, that there's like not a limit, then you gotta like cut that out, because you're not gonna succeed as a DJ if you're
I also feel like everybody's always like, oh, it's the DJ, give them a shot or whatever, but it's like, it's also your job.
Yeah.
So
my go-to is like, I'm 5 years sober if I don't want to take the shot, and then just see their reaction. But maybe that's a dick move, but I don't know. Because they get pretty aggressive with trying to take a shot with it. I don't know what it is. People want to take a shot with the DJ.
Always.
But like, you gotta like, I don't know. And then people I don't know if they're as aggressive with you.
I wouldn't say as aggressive, probably because I'm a girl.
Yeah. I've almost gotten in fights because people are like trying to force a shot on me.
Oh my God.
You're not gonna take it.
That's also another thing. The amount of people behind the booth sometimes is very stressful. And I just had this one incident happen literally like 2-3 weeks ago. My friends were in the booth with me, and one of them, his name is Esty.
Okay.
He was really drunk, and he stopped the music twice. He hit the stop button twice during my 1 hour set.
Yeah, one time is like...
One time, okay, fine, I forgive you. The second time, I was like, no, you have to go.
Yeah.
And
was it a close friend or?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the worst too.
So, you know, he apologized, of course, but I think that's also really important. Like, you have to know who's behind you, and sometimes the people behind you. My very first gig, actually, first gig I've ever played after Wired, was at 27. I think they closed it.
Okay.
27 Bar and Lounge.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And some girl put her drink right on top of like the booth. Somebody hit it. It went all over the mixer.
That's a nice first welcome gig.
It was really good, but I mean, it's okay. It happens. But for my first gig, it was really scary. I was like, oh no, like, what do I do?
I think when I started my DJ career, I was a naturally like introverted, shy person.
Me too.
And being a DJ has definitely jaded me a little bit, where I've had to be a little bit of a dick with people, honestly, and just be like, hey, don't do that, or like, no, I'm not gonna play this song, or you gotta just like be on it. I mean, because you don't really have time. If someone puts their 2 drinks up there, I just like put them down because you know what could happen, right? So it's kind of like you have to stop it, nip it in the butt before that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's cool for trying to play new venues. I think limiting the amount of venues. I think I'm in a similar stage as well, which I know is weird. Because you get to these different career points where you're like, okay, I've done this. What's next? Like, how am I gonna take this to the next level?
To the next level, exactly.
And even at where I'm at, like I've played EDC, I've had some really great accomplishments, but I still don't feel like I'm there. And that's I think a thing that a lot of DJs run into. You never feel like you've achieved that goal. I mean, maybe Tiesto and people like that. Like, all right, I've made it. But 99% of the DJs, even like people I know that are at a similar level to me, we don't feel like we've made it necessarily, even though it's our career. So yeah, I think you gotta just kind of accept the wins. I don't know where I was going with that.
But yeah, no, definitely. I played there and I'm like, okay, it's time to step it up. I need to release music. I need to go
out of the local market. Yeah.
Out of the local market.
You get trapped. I mean, local DJ, like that's a thing. People become local DJs and then you're branded as a local DJ. And it's really hard to get rid of that
local
tag.
DJ.
Yeah. I mean, the flip side of that is people forget that there's billions of people in the world to find your music and discover you as an artist, and they don't care if you played the same local spot 20 times. To them, you're not a local DJ. But you get caught where you're trying to hit up these talent buyers and like, oh no, I know you. You've played at this place I know that was a $300 gig. You played there 5 times. Why would I book you for $1,000 over here?
Yeah.
And so sometimes just like kind of stopping those gigs completely is the only way to get rid of that connotation.
Definitely.
Right?
And I feel like that's kind of how it was for me. That's why I stepped back from taking as many gigs, because sure, at the beginning, you're gonna take every gig you can. That's what everybody's gonna do. But you get to a point where you're like, okay, I want more. I have to step back for a little bit. And it's also, I don't know if this happens to male DJs in the same kind of stage as I am, but for me, a lot of people try to underpay me. And I'm just like, I don't think so. And it's because I'm a girl. I know that's why. But it's okay. You gotta keep going. Yeah, There's gonna be people like that.
So this is where you need a manager figure. So I kind of, I think it's important, even if it's a friend, to have some in between as the artist with some of these bookers. Not always necessary, right? Like I said before, it's good to have a personal connection.
Yeah.
But it is also good if, say, you have a friend that's like, hey, I'd love to help, to have them talk to the venues for you and try and negotiate the rate a little bit. So there's some kind of in between, and it also brings you up a different level. It makes you seem a little bit more professional. It doesn't have to be a real manager. It can just be a friend that's handling the bookings for you until you get your agent or something
That's
like that.
That's actually a question that I've been meaning to ask.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need somebody to book me, or my manager, just like you said. But then I feel like I'm not at that stage. So I feel like a good question for listeners would be, when do you decide that you need somebody to do that for you?
So I think when you have a few gigs under your belt, like you've played Dare, there's no right answer for like, okay, when I hit this amount of, gigs or I played this and this, then I get the manager. That's why I'm saying like just you don't need a real-time manager. Obviously it would be helpful if Clooney's manager was like, hey, I'm going to take you on. But at the end of the day, if you just have a friend that's like loves what you do, a lot of the big managers that you see now, like I'm trying to think who a good one would be, but like I know like Kygo's manager, or like a lot of these managers, they find the artist very early on when the manager is also like no one, and they're actually friends with them. They're not even like managers, quote unquote. They just start working with the person because they like them and they want to work with them. And then a lot of times those are the managers that become the big time managers because they came up with the artist.
Together, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of the times you'll come up together as opposed to trying to find a manager that's already big with an artist because that's like their artist. I mean, that is one way, but you're better off just finding a friend. I'd say just start now. There's no downside. Just find someone that's passionate about it, that you're friends with, that would want to be a part of it. And it doesn't even have to be a full-time thing for them starting off,
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely had a friend or two who wants to help me, but then I also am kind of like scared that that's gonna ruin our friendship.
Okay.
Because of just like business, I feel like.
What do you think's gonna happen?
I don't know, I just feel like sometimes they could get into a fight with the manager or whoever is booking me, whatever. Because that has happened before. Okay. There was a place when I first started DJing, my lovely friend Liz, I love her, she would always be there for me and support me and tell them what I need and everything. And there was one time they kicked her out of the bar for just standing up for me. She did nothing wrong. And I forget what the scenario was, but they literally kicked her out for doing nothing but standing up for me, which was, I was setting up my board. I'm pretty sure that I had to bring my board to play there. And the people at this place were just
that's a bad sign on the back,
Yeah, that's already a bad sign.
That's
if
a
you
red
have to bring
flag,
your own board, just watch out there. But yeah, I quickly learned that if you have to bring your own board, don't.
Not a great gig.
No, it's not professional. But it happens. It's a learning.
So you're worried that the manager figure might ruin relationships with some of these venues?
And I really feel like mixing friends and business, I feel like sometimes.
Yeah, so that comes down to trust, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, my manager is my brother, really. He's my actual blood brother. And obviously I trust him. And then we also, there's a understanding that I'm still gonna have the final say with everything. A lot of times he'll run stuff by me, things like that. So I think you just gotta find someone that you really trust and trust that they have your best interest in mind. But
I'm also kind of like OCD, so if I don't do things myself, I'm like, oh fuck, did this happen? Is this there?
Yeah.
Is everything set up correctly? So I feel like for me, setting things up by myself does work better for me, but I think it's definitely about finding.
Finding. I mean, and they don't have to be a quote unquote manager. They could be just someone that's helping you until you really get going with it, right? Yeah. So you don't always need to give them that title off the back of manager. Be like, all right, well, why don't we try this out for a few months, see if you can get me some bookings, if we could start really building some stuff together, and because it's just good to have people speaking on your behalf. Yeah. Say you're not around, and they're like, oh, my girl Steph is absolutely crushing it. You should check her out for your venue. That comes off so much better than being like, hey, I'm a DJ, come book me. Like someone else speaking for you. That little bit of separation.
I think that's also a very important part, is having a great group of circle that when that does happen, they're gonna talk good about you. My friend Liz, the amount of people that she has talked to about me is crazy, and I love it. I appreciate her so much, and she really pushes for me.
Yeah, so in short, make good friends and kind of have them be your promoters, quote unquote. All right, awesome. All right, so people that are listening might want a little bit of background on your part of the school, your journey when you were here 2 years, was it 2 years ago, right?
It was 2 years ago.
All right. So can you give them a little bit of background on what your experience was learning at the academy from no experience?
So when I first decided to DJ, I had just gotten into house music, probably maybe a year or two before that, so 4 years ago. I graduated 2 years ago. I think I took every possible class here at Wired.
Awesome.
And it helped. It really does. And learning from nothing and then coming here, and you guys have month-long courses. After the first month course, I was ready, and I definitely needed more experience. But the classes are great. They're awesome. They teach you everything you need to know. Everything I know about DJing and producing is because of you guys. And
well, not everything, because you said it.
Yeah.
Like, the experience after you graduate, and I try and tell DJs this when they come into the school. Like, there's still a lot of learning club etiquette, like how to read the room, all this other stuff that you really can only get by doing the thing.
Live.
But we'll definitely teach you the skill set. But after that, it's really on you to kind of take it to the next level.
It's just doing it, honestly. Like I said before, my first gig, something horrible happened, but that's okay. You keep going and you learn as you go. Like when I first started DJing, I did not look up from the board at all. I would just tunnel vision at the board. But now I've learned to read the room. If something works, I know a song that can go well with that, or hyping up the crowd, basically.
Yeah.
Like, that was a big problem when I first started DJing. I literally would not look up at the crowd. And it's important.
Yeah, you gotta look up, look around, be like, all right, is this song working? And then you kind of take mental notes, right? Like, okay, will this work for the next room?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's cool though. So you felt like you got a lot of the good fundamentals here.
Yeah.
And then we're able to take those to the next level by actually DJing out.
Yeah. And as you continue doing gigs, you'll get better, you'll learn a lot, and you'll start to meet a lot of people, and you'll get better. You get better every day. Every day you practice, it's better.
Yeah, so, all right, so in short, in summary of our conversation, we're gonna be releasing more music the next couple years. Clooney's gonna play out your track in the next 2 years.
Hopefully.
I'm calling it right now. Maybe a Club Space debut in the next 2.5 years.
Hopefully.
I'm trying to build the timeline for you, because I think it's important to kind of set these goals and be like, I'm
definitely.
gonna do this, it's gonna happen. All right, well, I can't wait to see you crush it. Thank you for being one of our first guests.
Thank you guys for having me. It was super fun.
We're excited to see where you go in the future. So thanks a lot, Steph.
Thank you.